Good evening, everyone. Welcome aboard. It has been a bit. It is your host, folks, Demetrius Villa. Welcome aboard. We are here. Yeah, we are getting ready for a train trip, aren't we, folks? Hello, Frank Pearson, Osman Hussein, Dolphin Ball Studios, Gramble, Bobby Johnson, DZ Studios, and I'm pretty sure more to come. It has been quite a bit. And since then, things have, there's a little, sorry guys, there's a little creature here trying to crawl up on me, if you guys want to see. Here we go. Oh, come on here. There we are. There's his, neighborhood cat. Likes to come into my house. Her name's Misha. Say hi. I know it says Moose on there, but somebody else's cat, but she likes me better. Alright? So there you go. But, yep, she's been hanging around and keeping me company for a bit, so that's how it goes. There you are. Just wants to say hi, so there you are. Say hi. There you go. Alright, get down. You know, guys, I'm not that much of a fan of cats, but she's just super nice. I mean, honestly. This cat just came up, and I'm like, where the heck did you come from? And just started to hang out with me, so whatever. But anyway, so there we go. We got that. Actually, now it just kind of reminds me of, let me just get this there. There you are. See that? There you go. There she is on the cover. There's Misha right on the cover there. Or Chess. I should have just named her Chessie. Darn it, I should have named her Chessie. Oh, well. There we go. Alright. So that was a little, there we go. It was a little detour. Hey, what are you doing there? Alright, folks. So let's go ahead and get things started. There we are. That was cool. Okay, so this entire stream, we're going to talk about mostly just California high-speed rail. I think we haven't talked about it in a good bit. Some of you guys have been asking for it, so we're going to go into it. And we're going to probably go from the perspective of starting where we sort of are now to sort of going back in a sense to kind of build up for that, especially for people who have not seen or are seeing it for the first time, talking about California high-speed rail. It's a little bit to take in for a high-speed rail project here in the United States. So we're going to go into that. We're going to talk about it from sort of the beginning. Not too much into the beginning, because that you can see in the video that hasn't really changed. That's kind of outdated that we've done about California high-speed rail. But when it comes to that, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some other aspects of the project and where it is. So, is it a boondoggle? Is it really going anywhere? It's kind of in the half mixture of it, okay? So that's where we're really going into this thing. And we've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. It's not that we're against at all the project. I'm certainly not against California high-speed rail, okay? I honestly think every state should have a form of high-speed rail no matter what. But the issue that we keep coming with California high-speed rail is more of the aspect of how they're doing it, less than what they're doing, right? Because we all do want California high-speed rail. Will I be making return to edit? Yes, I will be making return to edit videos. Honestly, I do want to get back to more of the edited videos. And I was sort of thinking of it as like, well, should I just leave off the live stream and then just get back to work on an edited video, or should I go ahead and just stream at least to keep myself busy here and tell you guys that, hey, I'm alive. Maybe Wyoming doesn't need high-speed rail. I don't know. But that's the thing, folks. That's why we're here, and that's why we're talking about these sort of things, or to research and see, and what makes common sense, right? Because, maybe Hawaii doesn't need high-speed rail, okay? Or certain states like that. But it does make sense to build it in between certain large metropolitan areas, which is what California high-speed rail promises. The issue when it comes to California high-speed rail is what they've been doing so far, which it's been sort of wasting time on that. So that's where we get into that issue there. So before we go ahead and get into it a little bit more, we're going to go ahead and start this little thing over here on Vox, talking about it. If you guys want to see it, we can. If not, I could just go ahead and just skim through it. I've already seen the whole thing. No big deal.
On November 4th, 2008, the people...
Let's see if... Oh, by any chance, do we have the desktop?
California vote.
Okay. See, this is why I haven't done this in quite a bit. Now it's not getting my desktop audio here. And there we go.
bid to fund this.
A high-speed rail line. Many countries around the world have had high-speed trains for decades, and this would be the US's attempt to finally catch up. The train would whisk passengers from LA to San Francisco in under 3 hours, and it was all set to open in 2020. Today, it's 2022, and California's high-speed rail project is famous for being a disaster.
I think they took a page out of my book in terms of that sort of editing. That kind of does look like our the documentary. But hey, if you see a good thing, use it, right? But that's the issue with California high-speed rail. It's been in discussion. The authority itself has been around since the 90s. It's been sort of been the brainchild of two-time Governor Jerry Brown, before it was his father's idea. I believe his father's name was Pat Brown. When he was governor during the 60s, the mid to late 60s, seeing what the Japanese did, and then wanting to take that over and bring it over to California. So the California High-Speed Rail Authority was started back in the 90s. They finally got voted on, 2008 Proposition 1A, and since then, they've been trying to go ahead and build the project since that time. So this is the only thing about having a kitten in the house is that this little thing just wants to go everywhere. You've at least tested all those places like 5 times, you little silly little thing. Don't look at me like that. Adorable little thing, but man, you get sometimes in your face sometimes with things. But here's the problem: is that there have been multiple places that they can go ahead, and of course they want to try to get San Francisco to LA. That's the main place, right? San Francisco to LA is the main area. They want to go ahead and build this thing. The problem is that where they started and where they're going right now is, as we said, and we talked about it multiple times, in the Central Valley between Merced and Bakersfield. All right, so that's kind of the issue with that. Now, the Vox video goes into where they should have been able to go, like for example the I-5 route, but instead they went over to Palmdale because local control over there and local politicians were able to lobby to get it to reroute the plan over to Palmdale. It's going to be slower, 34 miles longer. So that's one problem of that. And again, it goes into saying that, there's too much local control in that, that's how the thing is issue. It's nothing to do with the balance of power, honestly, because if anything, there's a lot of excuses and arguments that we can go to that federal power is very much overwhelming here in the United States, correct? I mean, who else can go ahead and hire 87,000 IRS agents now, right? But regardless, the issue is not to do with there's too much local power. The issue has to do with that there's too much litigation going on, right? Because the United States is a very litigation-heavy country. Everything we do here has to have some sort of litigation. So now we go into the lawsuits portion of this video, talking about that, in which you get to see a little bit more about this. So let's go ahead and let that run.
It took less than a year for people to start suing the California High-Speed Rail Project. Many cases were based on a law called the California Environmental Equality Act, known as CEQA. CEQA requires the government to study the environmental effects of any government project, explore alternatives, and release the findings in a report.
Right, so if you guys are not familiar with that, these are basically sort of like the environmental impact studies, the EIAs, and stuff done by the EPA. And the state has their own. Like for example, in Florida, it only took a couple months for it to get done for Brightline, but then it took a longer time for the EPA to go ahead and do their EIS study, in which basically what they do is it's not really an environmental impact, as in like, is this going to be green technology? Is this not going to, it's not going to hurt the birdies or the little animals? This train is not going to kill the kittens, is it? You don't want to kill the kittens. That's not the type of thing that this is really going into, right? It's really going into, how is this going to impact, the baby boomers living near this country club? Is it going to make noise for them? That type of environment. That's what we're talking about, because those are your major constituents here in the United States, if you don't remember. But we're not going to get too much into that. But again, That's when we're talking about environmental impact. We're talking about total environment, not the environment as you're taught about it in school or how you're really connotated and think about it. We're talking about environment as a whole. So people can go ahead and complain that, oh, it's going to make noise, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. So that's where those projects go in. Let's go ahead and let this play a little bit more.
Very easy to find a hole in that assessment and then file a lawsuit, essentially target practice for lawyers.
Many of these lawsuits had legitimate concerns. Some farmers in the Central Valley worried about the train damaging their agricultural land, irrigation systems, and crops. But others simply used CEQA to try and keep the project from being built in their neighborhood. This is a common way in the U.S. for private citizens to block important projects like housing.
Now, if you guys know the word, we know what the word is. Or the phrase, actually. It's not in my backyard, right? NIMBYs. That's basically the major issue with that. And NIMBYs, by far, okay, we're just going to mention it and then probably not. I don't want to talk about it anymore because it ticks me off to no end. But the majority of NIMBYs tend to be, yes, the baby boomers in a sense, right? And they tend to be people who have a lot more power, a lot more pull that they can be able to go ahead and do what they want. So they can use the CEQA system, or they can use the EPA or EIS studies to go ahead and keep these projects in litigation for almost forever. Okay, we've seen this happen in Texas Central, with Texas, between Dallas and Houston, the Texas Central Railway project, where basically that project was kept in legal limbo through the Supreme Court system for years. For years, to the point that the project may be dead. We don't know. It's been picked up by a restructuring company that has a track record of basically just taking apart companies and dissolving them. That's kind of their thing. Hopefully Texas doesn't go in that direction. We don't know where that whole thing is going. That deserves a video. I know I've said that for a good bit now, but I will get to that video. That's probably the first thing I want to do, is tackle a smaller video. That deserves a smaller video, hopefully this week. Doesn't take that long to put together. I know I keep saying it, but that's what we are. Do you see this thing? Hi. Oh, you just love attention, don't you? The minute I see you, you're like, oh, pet me, pet me. Unbelievable. Here, okay, let's go ahead and let this run a bit. While it's running, I'm going to go ahead and pour myself something. I do have, we're going to go back to the old drinking sort of thing, and I do have some Belgian-style ale here that is crafted or brewed. Not even crafted, it's brewed, okay? You don't chisel beer, that's not how it works. They just love using that handcrafted sort of terminology, and it's for good marketing. But this is a local place called Taxman Brewing, and it's a Belgian-style ale for a certain Belgian friend of mine in the audience here. We love you, Ruben. So hopefully we'll see you soon. But that's what we're doing. But before that, I'm going to drink the rest of this sparkling lemonade over here that I got from Aldi at a very nice price. So why not? While we go ahead and let this play.
Housing or infrastructure.
It's not cheap to bring a CEQA lawsuit. Sometimes you've got very powerful homeowners groups that have sued and forced changes, or at least delayed the project and run up costs.
For the high-speed rail line, these lawsuits were like roadblocks. And in order to clear them, the state had to hire legions of expensive lawyers, which added time and costs.
I think you do want to have a participatory system. You do want to have people able to say their piece, and you want policymakers to respond. Just that you don't want to get to the point where a hyper-local interest has veto over a project of really statewide importance.
But take away local politicians and federal drama and lawsuits, and this project still would have faced problems.
All right. So, and again, it's not just local politicians, as we've seen in Florida. You had the former chairman and CEO of American Airlines, Bob Crandall, who was retired in the Golden Coast of Florida, who went ahead and lobbied with millions of dollars. We know for sure that he paid upfront $1 million to go ahead and fund the opponent group known as Florida Not All Aboard or Citizens Against the Train, one of those two, and go ahead and push to go ahead and kill All Aboard Florida. At the time, that's what it was called. Now we know it as Brightline. So let's go ahead and let this continue.
The state body in charge of designing and managing this project was the California High-Speed Rail Authority. There was just one problem.
The High-Speed Rail Authority had never built anything like this.
Whoops.
Obviously, it's a tried and true technology globally, but it was new in North America when California tried it. Certainly, we didn't have the confidence in-house how to build it here.
When Japan and France were building their high-speed rail networks, they had legions of experienced engineers inside their governments.
And then let's talk about this. We know very much about Japan, right? I see some people have asked me to do a video about the French, the TGV, the Train Grande Vitesse. Maybe you can kind of say this is sort of hinting that that video may be coming up soon. I know every time I say coming up soon, that's just basically a death flag for any sort of idea in my canon. But we're talking about Japan over here. That's something we know very well, right? We did this video before talking about... maybe I should not have done it that bigly. Here we are. We got an idea. We talked about this before, talking about Japan and JNR. And talking about the cost, right? So if I can just get this, here we are. Let me just, there we go. Smart. Okay. You can kind of see it now. It's a little bit better, but no, not the same. But anyway, look. When Japan went ahead and built its bullet train, okay, they started construction in 1959. They had to do their own research and development. They got it done within 5 years. October of 1964 was when the Shinkansen opened, right in time for the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. Total cost, and this is in 2018 when we did, no, actually no, 2019 when I did this video. 2019 dollars, all brought up to cost into inflation adjusted. JNR, at that time the Japanese National Railway, it cost them $8 million per mile. Okay, including the initial research and development, to build the Japanese high-speed rail, the first Shinkansen, between Tokyo and Osaka. Okay, about 300 miles. California, in the year, well, let's just say back in the year 2018, right? In modern day, today's money, with today's technology available, okay, because high-speed rail technology has far few in advance before where it was, far faster where it was before in the 1960s, right? We were talking about max speed 125 miles an hour, and people think that was crazy. You're never going to get a train that's going to run consistently at 125 miles an hour. But they did it. They did it. So they got that running. And here you are, California, $19 million per mile in current year. That's insane. So that's where we're at with that. And of course, sort of the thing, and this is where they're building it again in Bakersfield and Merced. That's the first leg of the project. We're going to get into some good news before, okay? We will get into some good news. Again, the issue sort of comes down to is that how they're building it now, it's basically high-speed concrete. We haven't seen really anything past just building viaducts and bridges, more or less, at this point, right? So that's where we're at. All right. Going back a little bit in time, here we are. This is 2015, October 6, 2015, when California High-Speed Rail went ahead and broke ground on that. Which, by the way, that's a pretty big leap in time between 2008 getting the bill signed, not the bill signed, but at least getting the proposition passed. Okay, and it was a good majority of people that voted for it. A very sizable, good majority, about 60% close to. I don't know the exact number right off the top of my head. If I'm wrong, sorry, but it's about that. It wasn't like an 80% or anything like that. It was definitely more of like the 60% line, right? A sizable majority. So they were able to get that passed, okay? And then fast forward nearly 7 years later is when they're going ahead and breaking ground. Okay, it's taken 7 years to go ahead and get that all done. All right, that's fine. So it's taken more time. Here we are. Now we're at 2018, 3 years later. A state audit comes out talking about how many millions of dollars, or billions of dollars, well, not millions, billions of dollars that the High Speed Rail Authority had wasted. And this was in the subtitle, flawed decision making and poor contract management have contributed to billions in cost overruns and delays in system construction. And this is from a report from the state of California. I'm not kidding on there. Let me just go back up here because I was reading through it a little bit, and I was kind of a little bit more appalled than I was before. But we're not surprised, right? So here we are. This is a government report, by the way. This is from the state of California. If you guys don't think I'm making up stuff here, let me go ahead and get this right. If it will move, there we are. This is a state report. This is paid for by taxpayer money. This is a actual state report talking about this. Okay, its flawed decision making and poor contract management have contributed to billions in cost overruns and delays in system construction. A lot of that came from the consultants, okay? And we're going to talk about a little bit about these consultants. It wasn't just, because I've said before, okay, because I probably read an article wrong or something like that. That's the thing, you have to always go to the primary source of things. I read it as, okay, well, it's probably just the, it was, maybe they hired like a dozen or so consultants, right? No. They had on tap access to, let me see here, if we go over here. Well, here's number one. The authority had 56 contract managers throughout its organization. Again, that's a lot of managers. I don't even think Brightline even had 56 people when we first started out doing all this. But it gets even worse. All right. So RDP is rail delivering personnel. Or rail delivering project, something like. Let me just look up RDP so you guys can just be sure. What? Hey, that's my drink, not your drink. RDP. All right, go up. All right. Oh, there we are. All right, rail delivery partner. There we go. Okay, so rail delivery partner. I swear I'm gonna trade you in for a dog. Look at it. If you see her right now, she's just sitting on my knee, just like sitting there, just doing what she wants. She'll sit here while I'm doing work or something like that. She'll just be here while I'm working from home. But let's see, go consultants again. There we are. Multitasking, ain't that fun? Here we go. All right. So they did not have a dozen consultants. They had 485. Consultants working on the project. 485 consultants, and it gets a little worse from there. And this was back in 2018, guys. It gets worse. So if we go into a little bit more into what those consultants did, I think I'm at the right place over here. Let's see. I think I know what I'm looking for. They were asked to go ahead and say, well, we need you to go ahead and look up these sort of things or quote us on, etc., or these deliverables, right? They want certain deliverables on the project, right? So the issue with that came to, if we can find it, here we are. Okay, task required to pay contractors, 95%. Tasks required to control costs and ensure value. 38% of insured costs are allowable. 14. They weren't even caring about costs. It was more or less, right? They were failing to consistently document completion of tasks necessary to control costs and ensure value. And they're like, okay, well, that's not that big of a deal. What are we talking about over here? The thing is, like I've told you guys before, that the problem here in the United States comes to that since we're very litigation heavy. And because our government is filled with their own oligarchs as well, I mean, it's not like there's one certain country in the world that has their own definition of what oligarchs are. We're definitely the king of that. And honestly, I think we may be better off just having a monarchy at this point, but I digress. Let's go ahead and continue on to here rather than talking about my own political beliefs. All right. So further, the authority tasked the contractor of monitoring and reporting on the status of the RDP consultants' deliverables and was supporting CMSU and its compliance reviews of the authority's contract managers. Okay, so is it close to here? I think we're getting close to it. Yeah, we're getting closer. Here we are. Yes. All right. So this is what I'm talking about. We also, this is kind of a little freaky here, so don't freak out, because there's a number here that we all kind of familiar with. We also identified significant concerns with the authorities' collection and evaluation of deliverables for its, get it here, $666 million RDP consulting contract. I'm not making this number up. It's $666 million. They couldn't pick 660. They couldn't pick 650, because after you get over, a couple so $100 million, it doesn't really matter anymore how much you're spending, right? At that point, it doesn't really matter. You had to pick 666 million. California. What? I mean, this is the type of number that you're gonna have like Alex Jones come on the show. It's like, you see what they're going on? Gavin Newsom, he's trying to bring back Satan into California. He is summoning Satan into here. I'm telling you, folks, I have the documents right over here, right? And this is the type of stuff that like freaks out people, because you had to pick that number. This definitely was not a mathematically picked out number. Some finance guy saying, "Oh, it just coincidentally came up to $666 million, folks." I mean, that's just how it came up to the calculations. I'm not kidding. 666 million. Okay, let me stop with that, because it gets even worse. The review determined that for the work plans that were active when the authorities contract managing policies and procedures went into effect, the authority was missing formal acceptance notices for 70 of the 80 deliverables that the RDP consultants reported as completed. Further, the authority did not have 145 of the 184 deliverables that the RDP consultants have reported as having completed since the beginning of the contract. So they didn't even do the work. They had a $666 million contract to do nothing. They literally did. Hold on. Let's calculate this real quick over here. All right. So 145 right into 184, right? They didn't do 78% of the work. They didn't do anything. They just let it there. 78% of the work was not done. And let's not even go into that, because you had we're talking about 464 people that they had on here of the contractors. So if we put 600, we're talking about, close math in my head, it's about like $500,000 per consultant, more or less, that we're paying on there. Of course, the company is probably using whatever money on there. But this is the issue, guys. Okay, and this is why since 2018, a lot of people who were favorable to California high-speed rail really turned, because it's this sort of crap that came up that really freaked out people. Yes, $666 million for STG 44. I'm not kidding. Let me see. Oh, do I have Discord turned on? I forgot, guys. Let me get the Discord going on over here. I forgot about that. Here we are. Let's go ahead and start the event and get that going. Alright, my apologies, folks, for not letting the Discord go up. So when it comes to Discord, guys, we're just going to go ahead and do this. We're going to go through the articles. There's not that many to go through. I want to have a hard stop, hopefully around 10 o'clock. So we're doing good on time. Actually, a little bit better on time than I thought. So we're doing good. And then we'll go ahead and have calls once we're done with this. If you guys want, maybe we'll go ahead a little bit more into some other news, but apart from that, I think we should be fine. So let's go ahead. What happens next in the timeline? You guys are familiar with this, talking about Donald Trump wanting to take away the funding. And this really has to do more, I'm not going to talk about this too much. This had to do more with a spat between him and Gavin Newsom in regards to funding for the border wall. Which California said, we're not going to fund the border wall, and then Trump said, well, yeah, how about that $3.5 billion the federal government is going to pay for your project, which doesn't seem like too many people are a fan of it right now. So that's what happened. Again, would this have happened without California wasting a whole lot of money in the audit? Probably, but that just gave it more credence, right? So we're at 2019 now, right? Now we're at 2020. Now, a bit of a warning. This article comes from a very vocal opponent of the project from the LA Times, Ralph Artabedian. He absolutely despises California high-speed rail. He has a hate boner for the project. And it's just kind of funny because anytime he gets a chance to talk about California high-speed rail, he will talk about California high-speed rail. We call it Ralph's Law. I don't think there's any sort of we when I'm mentioning we here in regards to what it's called. It's probably me. But anyway, the issue is that a lot of these consultants because there wasn't just one consulting team, right? They hired multiple consultants from multiple different companies. I think the 12 number comes from the 12 companies that they hired consultants from. One of those being a company called WSP. WSP is basically Parsons Brinckerhoff. If for those of you who don't know, it was William Barclay Parsons that created it like 100 or so years ago, and he was actually one of the guys that helped to build the interurbans, or not the interurbans, but the interborough system, the IRT, now I'm at a loss for words. The subway. He built the freaking subway in New York. Okay, but anyway, fast forward into our wacky timeline here that we're at, and the company seems to want to call themselves WSP. That doesn't mean absolutely anything. It's like how companies now are making their logos so entirely very simplistic that they don't really mean anything. The same thing is going on with their company names too, that they're basically naming them just random letters at this point because it doesn't mean anything. WSP doesn't, mean anything. And there's a whole bunch of corporations that have been doing that. I remember, 15 years ago, Washington Mutual wanted everybody to call them WAMU, like if they were some sort of JoJo character. WAMU, look what happened to Washington Mutual. Hey, I guess they were way ahead of their time, That's what it is. Poor Washington Mutual. But anyway, you had a lot of consultants over here that were absolutely trying to say something like, hey, what the project is doing is not too good over here. It hasn't been right for what's going on. So, you finding yourself a little box there? This cat, I swear. Hey, that's my Bible. You silly cat. Ah, man. Are you gonna sit? Unbelievable. Anyway, so you had several consultants over here. It was basically one of them told, quote, I was told, this guy's name is Mark Stiles, career construction manager, and one of the several managers that they hired, I was told to shut up and not say anything, said Stiles, a manager who was hired as WSP's senior supervisory scheduler in the project's Fresno office. I was told that I didn't understand the political arena the project was in. I told them I'm not going to shut up. This is my job. So you did have people that actually wanted to say something. So it does, the country is not a lost cause, right? There are still good people over here. It's not just all slush money and lobbyists, etc. There are people with actual brains and heart that say, hey, we want the projects to succeed. We're trying to give you guys, some information, and you're just, pulling it off and telling us not to do anything. You've had several other people over here. Let me see. WSP spokeswoman Denise Turner Roth rejected Stiles' claim. We always work carefully with our clients and evaluate the demands of each project and to prepare realistic and transparent recommendations regarding schedule and budget. So some bullshit. I'm sorry. some BS. Copy that she just basically put and just said to go ahead and say, oh no, everything is fine. Don't worry. We won't do that sort of thing over here. $billion companies just trying to make, doing whatever. But that's the thing. And here you go. You had an engineer, Vera Lovejoy, over here saying, I wanted the project to succeed, said Lovejoy, who left the project in 2019 after 1 year. I was eager to help deliver it, but I couldn't stay. If you rock the boat, you're labeled as not a team player. And another guy, project controls coordinator Todd Blilstein, left in 2019 after a 1-month tenure. So you had them just, getting rid of people. And here's Mark Stiles, one of the former employees. he's got some style, he's got some grace, but unfortunately he's got a low pixelated face. I don't know why. LA Times guys, why are you getting like very low resolution pictures and then blowing it up like this? That's not how it works. Hey, you see that pop out? Oh man, this thing is so cute. But anyway, so let's get some good news in, guys, shall we? Can we get some good news for California? So they actually have been starting to get a little fire under their ass to start moving things forward, and they have gotten a $4.2 billion boost to their first phase to finally get the funding that they need to finish off the Merced and Bakersfield first phase of the project, so we can finally move to, more important cities. I'm not saying that Merced and Bakersfield don't matter. Okay, again, it goes into the joke about California should have started the project between a major area, a much more major area like Los Angeles or San Diego. Okay, we keep saying that, and of course there are going to be people saying, "Oh, they couldn't do that because they have to get the project done." No, that's not how you get things done. Every single major high-speed rail project has been started. Again, I could be wrong because you're gonna have somebody that will go ahead and take apart my video and go ahead and say some sort of thing. Which at that point, hey, that's perfectly fine. I don't care if more power to them. I probably won't even see it half the time because I'm not even paying attention to what's going on with every other YouTuber. But regardless, let's put it this way. Every successful high-speed rail project has always started between two major cities. Usually the two largest cities within the country or within a region. Okay? Merced and Bakersfield, yeah, they're medium-sized cities, but they shouldn't be the place to go ahead and basically build the first leg of your massive high-speed rail project. Okay? That doesn't make any sense, honestly. But anyway, yeah, they got $4.2 billion, and for some reason now Forbes doesn't want to load the rest of the article. Gotta love mainstream media, folks, right? They go ahead and do this sort of stuff, and then they start begging for money, pleading, please, pay for us monthly subscription, please, we're worth it. We do our jobs. No, you don't. I just use you guys. It makes my job a little easier because if not, I can just go to the actual sources of stuff and go through it there because you guys don't even report that right. But hey, this makes things a little easier that I can go ahead and pick apart and see what actually happens. It's more like summaries, right? And of course, for you guys, you can go ahead and see the articles too and send them to people, use them as resources and sources and stuff like that. That all works out. I mean, heck, Wikipedia uses these articles for sources too, so, why not? So anyway, we did get $4.2 billion earmarked for the train's first phase between mid-sized cities, Bakersfield, Fresno, and Merced. The project may also benefit for more than $2 billion of federal bipartisan infrastructure law funds set aside for passenger rail. Extending service to the San Francisco Bay Area and Los Angeles would boost the amount of track to 500 miles, which is what the voters voted on, to go ahead and get that done. So remember, the voters in California voted to get $9 billion for California high-speed rail. The project is already past $100 billion estimated. So that's kind of the issue when it comes to what people are looking for and where we're going in now. So yeah, the management has starting to get the things in turn, and they're starting to fix things here when it comes to the project as a whole. So things are looking up for California. It is not the same as it was before. It is now starting to look up for it. Look at you, cat. Where's your good cat? Are you a good cat, Misha? Yeah, that's right. I was gonna name her Aisha, like from the character from Outlaw Star, but I didn't want to be too much of a weeb. Maybe the next cat. I don't know. But anyway, I'm not going to have too many cats over here. Get out of here. I'm still a dog guy. I'm very much more of a dog guy, but, hey, it's keeping me company, right? Alright, so 4 years ago, the state tapped Kelly. So they got Brian Kelly, CEO of California High Speed Rail, that took over and started getting things a little bit more in motion, right? Because the previous guy wasn't really getting it done. They got him in, and now things are starting to really move forward for the company. And by moving forward, for the authority, right? It's not really. I mean, they're a company when you want to call a company or organization, but they're not technically a private company as you would think about it. But they are moving forward, so that's at least a good thing. And here it is. Okay, so the project is alive and well, creating employment opportunities for thousands of workers who are engaged in the most innovative and transformative project in our nation has seen in almost 75 years, says Karen Philbrick, Executive Director of San Jose State University's Mineta Transportation Institute. The legislative support to advance an electrified high-speed rail segment between Merced and Bakersfield is incredibly meaningful. So that's at least a good thing, right? And again, they are moving forward in their own special way, building concrete, high-speed concrete. Again, it's a good thing, right? There's certainly, look, for all the support that I've gotten for Texas high-speed rail, there's certainly more forward ahead than what Texas has right now, unfortunately. Of course, nowhere near where Brightline has done here in Florida, or keep saying here in Florida because I'm, native-born Floridian. So that's the thing, you can always escape Florida, but Florida never escapes you. So yeah, in Florida, I mean, Brightline has been moving ahead, and they're almost ready to go ahead and start this year for between Miami and Orlando. All these years, and finally we'll be there. And then soon they'll probably be over in California, which this article does go into a little bit. Again, it is going to be kind of funny when the Florida project gets a high-speed rail train first in California, then the California high-speed rail project. That is saying something. Florida man is going to do what California man can't do in California man's backyard. That's going to say a lot, right? Oh, man. I am never going to let that go when that happens. It's looking more a matter of when rather than if at this point. Like 60% now when, right? When we get more of the project set down in stone for Brightline West, the Las Vegas to Victorville project, that's going to be really good. And that deserves its own video too, which we did do one when it first became a thing in 2018 when Brightline did buy Express West and renamed it to Brightline West, but hey, anyway. So the California project, which estimates travel time between San Francisco and Los Angeles will be less than 3 hours, going at over 200 miles an hour, also receives about $1 billion annually from the state's cap and trade program, a de facto carbon tax on major emitters of greenhouse gases. While the Build Back Better infrastructure money was never approved, there's a pool of other new federal money California can tap for future needs. All right, and then one of those was like $25 million of a grant. Basically, the U.S. Department of Transportation has just been giving out grants for projects. Brightline got one as well for safety. But again, those are grants. Those are going to be money that's going to be given out anyway. So for anybody saying, "Well, it's using taxpayer money," well, yeah, I mean it's going to use taxpayer money when the U.S. government goes ahead and uses an EPA study, which Brightline did pay for the study, by the way. You don't have to pay for the study, but you can. But anyway, at this point, take the money. Who cares? If especially for a lot of us that are, for a lot of people here that are of the belief that the country is falling apart, might as well take the dole while it's, with the hand is out, right? Might as well take it. So that's where we're at. And again, you kind of see, where it should have gone. Like, again, this phase 2 over here between, let me move this a little bit more over here. There we are. This is where I keep saying that should have been done. Los Angeles to San Diego. Now, Amtrak does have the Surfliner, and the Surfliner is actually one of Amtrak's best, most ridden trains in the United States. They actually make a profit on the Surfliner. However, the Surfliner goes a whole different route. The Surfliner goes between Los Angeles Union Station and it's the reason why it's called the Surfliner. It goes along the coast over here to San Diego. It's a very picturesque, it's a very beautiful train ride. I've never been on it myself, but from all the pictures and from all the talk that I've heard people, talking to me about it or online, it definitely does look, like a fantastic ride to go on. But that's the thing, it's a little bit slow, right? It's very nice, it's very picturesque, it's very beautiful, but it is slow, right? Now, if you wanted to get from LA to San Diego really quickly, again, we're talking about 90 miles, of a drive at the straightest along the line, but it would cut the time far more as high-speed rail going through Los Angeles, and it's going through the Ontario airport too, which is a big airport, and you have the Burbank airport station that will get done later on. But you have that to go ahead from Los Angeles to San Bernardino, all the way down to Escondido, and then to San Diego. Hey, that would work perfectly wonders, and you're not taking away from the Surfliner. You're actually adding to that. It's like, well, would you like to go ahead, and you see this in other countries, would you like to take the slower, less expensive line? You get pros and cons, right? It's less expensive. You may get a better view, right? But you're not going to get there, in a good amount of time. Now, the high-speed rail project, okay? You can go ahead and take that. It's going to be more expensive, but you can go there and get there a lot faster, okay? And yeah, you'll still have some picturesque views. Maybe not as as great as seeing the the Pacific Ocean off of California, but I mean, it's still a very pretty state. California is a pretty state, okay? And when I've been there in San Francisco on the layover, it is a pretty state. It's just a shame that you have a lot of cuckoos, and that's coming from a Florida man, okay, saying that California's nuts, okay? I mean, come on. Jeez, guys, get your stuff in order here. But anyway, so that's the good thing. And this is a good part. Auto-obsessed America is a global laggard in high-speed rail, a service widely available across Europe, China, Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan, which pioneered the technology 6 decades ago. We're going on to celebrating 60 years of the Shinkansen. It felt like yesterday when we were celebrating 50 years of the Shinkansen back in university. Remember that? If you guys were there, like the very early days when we were still the High Speed Rail America Club, we were doing this whole big thing of celebrating 50 years of the Shinkansen. We're getting on to 60 next year. Two years. Well, in 2024 will be 60 years of the Shinkansen, and America will still not have a true high-speed rail at that point. Maybe Brightline will provide. I don't know. We'll see. But things are starting to move forward for California, which is good. And of course, it says talking here about Florida. California has no monopoly on high-speed dreams. Florida-based Brightline, the only private passenger rail in the United States, is expanding its Miami to West Palm Beach service to Orlando next year, offering top speeds of 125 miles an hour. The company, controlled by Milwaukee Bucks co-owner and Fortress Investments co-founder Wes Edens, also expects to announce new funding plans and a revised timetable for its delayed Brightline West, a train from Las Vegas to suburban Los Angeles that may move passengers at 200 miles an hour when service begins later this decade. Brightline has also said it would eventually connect to California's bullet train at a future station in Palmdale. Right. So going back to the map over here, the Palmdale station is over here, the Palmdale Transportation Center station. So that's where they want to go ahead and get from Los Angeles. You can go ahead in urban Los Angeles at some point in the future, God willing, hopefully. Take a train over from Los Angeles, go to Palmdale, transfer over to Brightline, and go zip away over to Las Vegas. Go ahead, get some, do things that you do in Las Vegas, right? I'm not a fan of gambling, but hey, there's a lot more things to do in Las Vegas, right? I do want to go to that range where they have the machine guns and stuff like that. That'd be fun. That's my type of thing. Or go there for the SEMA Auto Show or for a SHOT Show. It's too bad they're not like in the same week or something like that. But you have a lot of stuff there in Las Vegas, right? So that's the good thing. So they have been getting more, under seeking more in federal grants. So things are starting to move forward, right? So that's good. And the other good thing is that now they've gotten approval to get to San Jose. So that's another good thing. Hey, don't be meowing over there if you got yourself up there. You can get yourself down. There you go. Good girl. All right. So, the High Speed Rail Board voted unanimously to approve the environmental impact report along the 49-mile section from San Francisco to San Jose. This section of the project is estimated to cost more than $5.3 billion. Let's double or triple that at that point. She's so enamored by that the Midwest High Speed Rail painting. Yeah, I know. Or you're just looking at your reflection. you're looking at your reflection, you dummy. Meow. Ah, man, cats, am I right? But anyway, so they are voting to get the environmental impact study hasn't been done, but they are now voting to get the EIS moving forward. So they are moving ahead. It's not going to just stop, because that was the thing. A lot of people, and I disagree with this. A lot of people who were against the California high-speed rail thought, oh, they're going to just stop it and Merced to Bakersfield. I said no. If they do that, that's going to be even worse. They are going to get it to San Francisco at the very least, and they're moving ahead with that. So I am correct about that. That is happening. Let me see. And of course, helping out the area over there. That's the thing. That when it comes to high-speed rail, really one of the reasons that I have been so big in supporting high-speed rail has been about talking about the economic and societal impacts that these type of infrastructure projects will bring, right? Because you're opening up for blue-collar jobs. You're making the country a far more cohesive and much easier place to get around than just having the car, right? And it also promotes a more viable and alternative mode of transportation, right? It doesn't mean to take away the car, right? I've never ever in this channel, okay, ever said that cars suck and we need to get rid of cars, okay, entirely. No, I've never said that, okay? Cars are great. Most people owning cars, that kind of sucks, okay, honestly, because most Americans don't know how to drive. Let's be quite honest about that, okay? Cars are fantastic. I love my car. I got my 04 Lexus IS300. I love that thing to death. I probably won't get rid of it as much as it wants to try to make a big fuss, but I'm not going to get rid of that thing. Again, it all comes down to having a balance. You cannot just put all of America in cars, which is the last big live stream that we talked about. That wasn't the lounge. Was talking about, is the car dependent culture really worth it, America? Was it so worth it to go ahead and build concrete from sea to shining sea? Was it really? It didn't. It didn't do such a good job, and it hasn't worked. But we have a chance now to finally move forward. So that's at least the good thing about that. Okay, and yeah, this is just another article saying the same thing. This is from International Railway Journal. Honestly, this is one of my favorite sources because it's no BS. They don't beg for money like the mainstream sources, and it's clean. It's clean. It's fanciful. It gets right to the point. I did have their subscription for their magazine at some point, and I guess after I moved, everything just kind of got lost in the way. I still get Trains magazines, even though I haven't re-upped my subscription, because the whole point of it was to go ahead and get the online articles for you guys. But they didn't even let me get that. Every time I try to sign in, it says, "Oh, this is not your password." So whatever. So I haven't signed up. All right. Yep. So that ends us for today for California High Speed Rail. I got right there in time. What are you doing, cat? Ah, man. But anyway. So that's where we're at, okay? Let's go ahead and look at the comments real quick before we open up for the audience over here. Let me see. One of the many reasons why Brightline is the best railroad. Yeah, again, for passenger rail, what we're at right now, Brightline seems to be the bright spot in thing. Darius, my brother. One thing cars can do the trains can't is personally tow boats. Dude, why do you have to bring in boats in this discussion, man? Yeah, again, there are things cars can do that trains can't. There are things trains can do that cars cannot. There are things that planes can do that neither one can do. I haven't mentioned planes, I guess, all entire stream, which is important. Again, where does rail fit in? Okay, rail, especially with our modern day high speed rail, fits in where it's too far to drive with a car and too short to go with a plane. That is the perfect spot for high-speed rail. Around 250 up to around 550, maybe pushing it at 750 miles, right? That's the sweet spot for high-speed rail. And there are so many city pairs within this nation in order to connect all of that, okay? That's the thing that we're trying to do. We have that. Again, we're not looking to go ahead and take away everybody's car and force them into high-speed rail like some silly ideas or some silly politicians think is a great idea to do. That's not a balance, and that's not common sense. Okay, let's have some common sense over here. All right. Any more comments over here that I want to go to? James Leno, building across plains and desert is way easier than building under mountains and earthquake faults. Yes, that's true. Here's the thing. Japan did it nearly 60 years ago. Well, they were doing it 60 years ago. And they have a lot more mountains. And they have a lot more earthquakes. So there's no excuse that in the year 2022 that California can't do it. That's really, and there's not that much mountains between where they're planning to go between. This is like one of the least mountainous regions over here. They're basically going along the valley, so that's really not a thing. Yeah, it's going right through the valley. It's not even going. You have maybe like one mountain range over here between Murrieta and Escondido, but that's not a big deal. They're gonna go between Bakersfield and Fresno. Yeah, it's very flat. In the Central Valley there. But yeah, that's sort of the issue there. What we're going through. Has anybody taken a look at the new Wawa station? What Wawa? We're talking about the gas station. All right, folks. Let's go ahead and open up to the audience. We have about 5 people with their hands up. Let's go ahead and bring out these. Keep forgetting how to pop out the stage. There we go. So we can have a look. So some people keep thinking that I'm muting people or anything like that. So you have full view of everything that is going on. Okay, there we go. All right. So David Mitchell, we're gonna go ahead and invite you to speak on here. Actually, before we do that, let me get there we are. There's my headset. Okay, so we don't have any microphone feedback. That would be a great thing. Between me speaking and the microphone over here, there we go. Okay. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and bring David Mitchell invite to speak. Alright. Hello! Alright, hold on a sec. I don't think my audio is working too well on my end now. This is what happens when I just put in the speakers. Give me a second. Take this out and put this in. I should have done this before. That's my bad. Oh boy. Doing it on the fly, aren't we? Here we are. Okay. Let me just make sure that this is working here.
It would probably take a few.
Okay, there we are. Alright, so that is working. Okay, and let me go ahead and... Where's my Discord settings? Man. Just gotta love technology. So advanced that we can't even figure itself out. There we are. Voice and video. Output device. Speakers. There we are. Okay, now I can hear you. Perfect.
Right. Are we doing the 5-minute thing or the group thing?
We're doing the 5-minute thing. We're going to keep it to 5 minutes. All right, so I'm not going to start your 5 minutes now. I'm just going to lay the ground rules for everybody. Everybody's got about 5 minutes, okay, unless you have something and people are excited to hear it. We'll keep it going, but we're just trying to keep everybody to 5 minutes to speak your piece about anything. We'll try to keep it to the topic, but if you want to bring in anything else, be my guest. All right, so welcome aboard, David. Been a bit.
Well, just to let you know, my birthday was 3 days ago on the 25th, man.
Oh, happy belated birthday.
Thanks, man. And actually, I'm about to start live streaming in just a minute, too, you know?
Oh, awesome. You have a stream within the stream.
Would I be able to go ahead and do the dual live stream?
Probably not. I'm just trying to keep everything simple right here and just get this thing going.
Yeah, but have you been keeping track on what's been going on with the Class 1 freight railroad?
Not at all.
2 months? Like, the last 2 months been freaking crazy on what's been going on with the Class 1 railroad. Like, literally, it's just mind-boggling what happened. Like, at the end of July, there will both be a nationwide railroad strike. Like, every worker from all the Class 1 freight railroads will both go on strike.
Okay, the strike I did hear about. That's something I did hear about, and I think that is important to talk about. So I'll give you the floor to talk a little bit more about that, and maybe anybody who's not aware of it, maybe just try to bring them up to speed with it, including myself.
All right. What happened is the railroad worker of the union railroad workers, they did a thing where they would talk to every Class 1 railroad worker in the nation, and they were going to do a nationwide railroad strike at the end of July. But the railroad started freaking out, and they started asking the government to get involved to push it back until September. And I hate to say it, that did make the flame even bigger, because now we're going to have another supply chain shortage this coming up November and December.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. Yeah, especially guys. I'm just gonna warn you right now, not to cut into your time, David. I'll add a little bit more. Things are gonna get bad, like really bad, later on. So I hope you guys are starting to stock up on food and stuff like that, because near winter, it's gone bad already with like some stuff being gone. Like I've seen at my local Kroger and Aldi, like chicken just gone. I'm pretty sure I posted the pictures up on the channel. If not, you guys can sort of see that. But yeah, they're gonna be whole shelves gone.
But what I'm saying is because of this, it's because the Class 1 won't accommodate with their worker, and they're trying to be cheapskates. It's causing a problem. Like, let me bring up a meme that in the group chat that bring it up very sane. Let me bring.
I was gonna say if you mention me on Discord with the meme, just put it back on the general chat. I can probably see it.
All right, I'm going to put it in general chat right now. But the Class 1s are not being so good right now and being jerks,
Yeah, and that's been, especially now with precision scheduled railroading, and that's another video idea I've said, like how precision scheduled railroading is destroying freight railroads, because it's honestly the problem is in this country it's gotten to the point where you have the corporations have absolute near total control of not just the government, but also the process and the litigation here in this country. And which is where you have it. Yeah, it's become a corporatocracy, not corporatism. Corporatism is a very different thing than what a corporatocracy is. So I think Pensy Fan put the meme. Is this the one you're talking about?
It's the Class 1 memes where they are talking about how they can bring more money back in.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course that's been accidents have been rising in freight railroading since about 2018, when passenger scheduled railroading really went into effect.
Sad thing is, we have not learned from the Lac-Méganic train disaster that happened back in 2013.
No.
We have not learned from that disaster because, one, the thing that caused that train disaster was one-man crews, and the Class 1s are trying to push for one-man crews.
Right. The issue with one-man crews has been absolutely bonkers, because it's not like with the freight with over the road in terms of trucking and stuff like that. Yeah, you have one driver and that's basically it, but you have one container. With the train, we're talking about multiple, up to several, dozens and up to 100, 200, 300 containers at a time. Okay. And to have just one person, one-man crew, crewing all that, okay, it's not an easy job. You do need multiple people. I mean, if you require a pilot and a co-pilot, for an airplane, you certainly do need, at least two people on, operating a freight train, or more, So this whole entire thing, in order to go ahead and save money, is like, oh, we don't have to pay another crew member. We don't have to give them, retirement. We don't have to give them benefits. We don't have to go ahead and pay them, whatever. Now they've been, trying to pay less and less for because it used to be a very great paying job. I mean, you still have,
I know.
Yeah, and it's very sad in the United States how, railroad workers have been workers in general have been treated like absolute garbage. But railroad workers in general, I mean, if you don't have your infrastructure in the country, you don't have a country. Okay.
And Gene, is it that we need to crack down on Wall Street? We need to crack down on them because they're going to tear the country apart and run with it. You know?
Yeah, that's another thing, David, and I completely agree with that. Let's try to keep it on we're just on the freight railroads though, because then I'll go into another tangent.
I know. But also, I'm going to bring it up real quick. I am really looking forward to the trap storm this December with the airline.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get your popcorn ready for what is about to happen down in Florida.
Yeah. it's just going to be nuts, but anyway.
It's going to be a crap, though, because the airlines, they're peeing their pants right now because the day that they try to fight again, when Brightline first began, it's about to happen. They're about to see their worst nightmare come true.
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of it, right? The nightmare just begins for them. It's not like, you have the whole thing like, oh, that's the end. It's just it's the start of the beginning of the end. At least for a complete stranglehold, right? And that it's still going to take years before we actually see the real fruits of this come out.
Yeah, but I see with what Brightline is doing, it's going to mark the beginning of the end of the airline sort of flight.
All right, real quick, David, do you have the
Yeah,
the
I
meme?
found the meme.
All right, just
Yeah, I found the meme.
yeah, mention me on Discord. I'll go ahead and put it up for everybody to see.
Well, but I am looking forward to it. All right, I did put your name. I did link your name.
There we
got
are.
it?
Yeah, I got it. Let me go ahead and
read it.
yeah. We can give them a livable schedule. Yeah, it's true. Here we are, so you guys can see what we're talking about over here. Let me just make sure that it's on there. All right, so this is the old meme format of throwing the guy out the window. You guys have seen this if you've been around any time on the internet since, it's like 2008 or so, something like that. All right, we need to restore service immediately. We could have one-man crews. We can offer bonuses they won't even earn before quitting. Or we could give them a livable schedule and wage. There you go. That's for any job. But it's true. Yeah, that's the problem is that, and this is the thing. Since the pandemic, started, I guess it's safe to say it. I mean, we can't say the other, whatever. Anyway, since it started, the problem is that when people go for work, it's a contract that goes both ways, right? Somebody's giving their time and their labor for somebody else, okay, for a company, and that company in turn provides them for, first of all, to pay them, equal to their wage and equal to their labor and equal to their experience, and also to say, hey, this is going to be a secure job. As long as you do good work for me, we will keep you on here, right? So it's a contract that goes both ways. When you had a whole, let me just finish real quick. When you had a whole bunch of people laid off, right? They just started cutting off people left and right with little to no remorse, and they do this even without the pandemic, right? And then all of a sudden, they come back and they say, oh, why aren't people coming back to work? Because that's the problem. You don't uphold your end of the contract. People are coming in to go ahead and work. People are coming in and putting in their labor, putting in their time and their effort, and companies are not paying back. That's the issue.
Oh, and speaking of that, Demo, I've been watching Not Just Spike's YouTube channel a lot.
Whose YouTube channel?
Not Just Spike.
Oh, Not Just Spikes, yeah. I saw a recent video of his too, yeah, about the...
I watched mostly all his video, and it made me realize how much we messed up in this country. Yeah,
it was like, it's talking about the Dutch bikes, the ones that you can go ahead and... I forgot the name for him. But I just watched that video, and it's just like, you look over there in those countries. And the Netherlands, before, they were very much Americanizing themselves very quickly, but they really turned ship in the 90s. Right.
When they started seeing that problem, they said, nope, we don't want to have that problem. They got rid of it.
Yep.
But it's crazy, but I'll bring up back on the Class 1 scene real quick. quick, I do see the government cracking down on the Class 1s too.
Yeah, that will probably happen, especially this administration. They probably will be a lot more receptive to hearing what the unions have to say. So let's see what happens there. I don't know. All right.
But I already see a crap storm getting ready to happen.
Probably. All righty, David. It was great having you on board here again.
It was too, Timo. Well, I gotta get ready for my live stream, so talk to you in a bit.
All righty. Yeah, sure thing. Take care.
Later.
All righty, man. Okay, so let's go. We're going to go left to right over here. We got Ash Tatum. I believe that's Darius. Go ahead and let you on board. Again, 5 minutes. Nobody is exempt for it except for me, because I am the Caudillo over here, so I can make the rules. Okay. Hello, Darius. You're on board, man.
Hey, Demetrius, how you doing?
Hanging in there. How about you?
Doing fine.
All right. So, what is it you want to bring up today for discussion, or anything you want to talk about on California? You there?
What happened? There hasn't real progress going on.
Okay, you sort of crapped out over there with your internet connection. So just say it again, whatever you were trying to say.
All right.
You there?
So, yeah. Right now is just a city mover because Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach is all just one big metro area.
All right. Your connection is not doing too. I heard that a little bit better, but your connection is not doing too well, man. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, for practical purposes, it's just one big city.
Right, and you're just moving within the region.
It's not South Florida. Or calling one word Miami.
Okay. Tell you what, you want to maybe go back in the audience and see if you can get your internet fixed up, and then you can come back here.
And there hasn't been an actual private rail line since 1984, since 1970s.
Right. Yeah, when it was the Florida East Coast running it.
No. The last private one in the 70s was in Colorado. I'm talking about privately run passenger lines.
Right. Well, I thought you were talking about just in Florida alone, because I do believe, I think it was either in the 60s, yeah, that FEC stopped. But yeah, you did have like one private line, but yeah, the Brightline is the first private passenger rail line since the 1970s, and the first one to be created actually in close to like 100 years or so.
There's a lot of progress going at the Aventura station.
Yeah, dude, if you have any pictures from the station, because I and that was the thing. The last, when I was there last year, I was going to go ahead and do a video, and that's when the whole thing happened last year. So unfortunately, that didn't really come out. I still have that footage, but if you want, yeah, go ahead and take some more videos, and I'll put it up on the channel, probably as a short or something like that. Anything else you want to share, or?
That comment about the thing where cars can beat high-speed rails is, let's say from Miami to Tampa, and Brightline has completed its extension, intercity extension to Tampa, and I own a small sailboat. If I want to go sailing in Tampa Bay, I cannot just go, and I want to bring my sailboat with me, I cannot just go and take the train there.
This is a really reaching example that most people are not going to do. Hey, I don't think, somebody's going to ask Brightline as well, can I bring my sailboat on board? That's not going to happen. Look, if you're going to bring a boat or something, that's a whole other different thing,
I'm just saying that not everybody is going to be going from Miami to Tampa.
Yeah, obviously we're not we're not trying to.
Population in Florida.
This is not a one-way train ride that we're trying to force people on. This is it's just a train. It's just like any other form of transportation. You pick that you want to go ahead and go on it, and you have a choice, right? And that's what we want to give people. We want to give them multiple choices to use, right? So that's it.
One choice where you're forced with an infrastructure forces you to use a car.
Exactly, or forces you basically. Well, you can drive for 2 days if you want to go somewhere, since the United States is such a massive country, or you can go ahead and take this, whatever one of the two, planes that go, go to one place or another, and you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money, and then just be stuck in this can where the service is awful. But yeah, that's basically what it is. Anything else you want to add in there?
No.
All right.
Good night.
All right. Good night, man. Take care. All right. Next with their hand raised up is Brightline Fan. We'll go ahead and bring you on there. Go ahead and move. Wait, how do I? Hey, don't forget to go back onto. There we go. Leave the stage. There we go. Perfect. Okay. They changed the naming on that. It just said move. It had one that said move to audience, so I don't know why that has that. Okay, let's go ahead and invite Brightline Fan to speak. Alrighty. You're on board.
Okay. About Brightline. They're actually studying about raising the top speed to 150 miles per hour.
Yeah, that I think we talked about a couple months ago, which I think that it's more than possible with the equipment, and that can definitely be done.
Yes, yes. And about that, there's a lot of development going on with the Southeast Rail Corridor. You know about the corridor that goes down from Washington, D.C. to Atlanta.
Right.
They're actually building the first, not building, but actually proposing the first segment.
Oh, okay. This is news to me.
Yeah.
Is this a government project that's being proposed, or is this like an outside organization?
I don't know, man. It's more like a government agency that's doing it. But,
okay. Yeah, definitely. I'll take a look at that then.
Well, speaking about new rail corridors, I think there is another project going on here in my home country, in the Dominican Republic. So, we're going international here.
Okay.
There is a private company that wants to connect Santiago de los Caballeros with Santo Domingo here in in the DR. Since there are no railroads here in the DR, all of them just went bankrupt.
Oh, jeez.
There were 2 railroads here. There's no railroads here in the DR.
How recently did they go bankrupt?
I don't know. In the 1970s, there was 2 lines. One was called the Samaná and La Vega, Ferrocarril Samaná y La Vega.
Okay. Which
connected Sanchez and the province, the cities of La Vega and Sanchez, which is in Samaná, and the other one was Puerto Plata y Santiago, which connected the 2 cities with it connected the 2 cities there, with Santiago and Puerto Plata.
Okay.
Those 2 went bankrupt due to the highways. They were
right.
constructing highways at the time during the 1900s. So right now, currently the Dominican Republic doesn't have any railroads that are actually functioning. Well, we have the Central La Romana, which is just a sugarcane railroad.
Right, and that's most Caribbean countries basically have that. Cuba still has that. So are they planning a passenger railroad or proposing one? Is that what's going on?
Well, it's a proposal. I'm not sure if they're. Well, I'm not sure if they're planning to build it or it's just a proposal because it's pretty. I've just shared some videos in the server too about this railroad. It's called. Well, it's not called the Dominican. Well, I call it the Dominican National Railroad or the Dominican Railroad. I just gave it a name. So, and
All
I
right.
had some dreams, and I drew. Well, how can I say this?
You've drawn a proposal for it or a map?
Yeah, not a railroad map. It's a train, actually.
Okay.
It was called the Avelia Palmera, which is a.
I thought you were gonna say like Velia Dominicana or something like that, man.
Yeah, the Avelia Palmera, which is actually for the Dominican market.
Okay.
Avelia for the Dominican.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, hey, it's not a bad thing to go ahead and hope and dream that something that happens. But hey, as long as you get it out there, it may start something. Don't let your memes be dreams, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're actually the company that I'm talking about is Empresas Ares. They're actually connecting Santo Domingo with Santiago. They're actually making the first line. They're not making the first line. They're proposing the first line,
Right.
which is going to be a wild ride.
Okay.
And about the Class 1 railroads, which David just talked about
Yeah.
in his 2 live streams. I was there and I was talking about that. Man, it's going to be a roller coaster ride, man.
Yeah, and it's not good already with a country that's been rocked by supply chain mismanagement and just crises all abound. This is just, it's going to be one of the things that if it doesn't break the camel's back, it's really going to put the camel in a wheelchair. It's not a good thing at all. And that's the thing, people just don't really pay attention. I mean, the whole trucking thing has kind of come more into the fore end because not just the talk of the supply chain, but also you had the recent thing that happened in Canada with the trucker strike. But now with this going on over here, it's really going to show because you don't. Trucks are one thing, but when you don't have rail, those trucks are not going to get anything. So it's just going to have massive, not ripple. We're talking about a tsunami wave effect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, freight is not having a good time.
Oh my goodness. The Class 1, CSX, Union Pacific, BNSF, and I think there's another one, Norfolk Southern as well. Those 4.
NSF, yeah. Hey, this was gonna happen at some point or another, Now we get to kind of see it, so it's what it is. Anyway, anything else you want to add into there?
Well, I think that's enough.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good seeing you.
Yeah, I hope we could actually do another lounge video as well.
Yeah, we'll get back to the lounges. Let me get back to getting like the actual videos done, and then we'll probably do like some lounges intersplice them with the live streams too, because that's something that I want to get done. I have a better handle on my schedule now, so I think we can get back into motion here. That's where we're at.
All right, take care, my friend. And don't forget, this is a roller coaster ride. This is more like a roller coaster ride than a train ride.
Oh yeah, believe me. That's what I say. Strap in and enjoy the ride, folks. All right, take care, man.
Take care.
Okay. We're doing good on timing, folks. So again, if you guys want to go ahead and come on board, we will raise your hand up. If not, if you just want to be here just to listen, no big deal at all. But I am just going to keep going left to the right. That how I have it over here, and you guys can see on the live stream. Again, I'm not doing any sort of any wild things or anything over here. But I am going to have a bit of this Belgian ale here. So let's go ahead and get this up. I was trying to get it foamed up in time, but oh well, that's my bad for corking it open early. So cheers. Ah, that's good stuff. Okay. So we got Rennell Reed. Go ahead and invite him to speak. See what Rennell has to say on the situation. Hello, Rennell. You are on board. I believe you have your mic muted.
You good?
Yep.
You hear me?
Oh, loud and clear, man.
All right. I do want to chime in about the California high-speed rail project that you were discussing earlier.
Yeah, of course.
When they said, you know, that they started in the Central Valley, the couple articles that you, I beg to differ. I think their first piece should have been starting in L.A. to Fresno. There you go.
L.A. to Fresno. Yep.
That's your first piece, and then Fresno to Bakersfield, and then Bakersfield to Merced, and you just connect the dots all the way up to the San.
Right. Well, LA to Bakersfield, yeah, and that would have been better because at least you would have had a major metropolitan area connected to a middle of the way metropolitan area, right? So it's not like between Merced or Bakersfield and Fresno, right? We're talking about LA to Bakersfield. That makes a little bit more sense, right? So now you at least have the main constituents or the mass of shareholders or stakeholders who are actually going to be using the equipment and using the. Sorry, I'm thinking now in like manufacturing. Using the train and actually taking it from there. So that's what you wanna do, right? Instead of just putting it in the middle of in California terms, like in the middle of nowhere.
That maybe they shouldn't have started in the Central Valley.
Yeah, I agree.
L.A. to Fresno, like I said, that could have been their first piece, and then keep building and connect the dots all the way until you get up to SF.
Yeah, but it's what it is now. I mean, the concrete is in the ground. Not the rails yet, but the concrete is there. So, and hey, at least I honestly think they're going to be going first after they get Fresno. They're really going between San Jose and San Francisco. We probably may see San Francisco and San Jose get started. That's another option they could have done. They could have just started San Francisco to San Jose, and that would have been that would have been great.
Connect the dots downward.
Yeah, and then just keep going down. That would have been another way to start too, right?
Remember those worksheets in elementary school where you had to connect the dots?
Yeah, and again, it wasn't surprising to me for a lot of kids that either couldn't connect the dots or they just couldn't make straight lines, or if they started coloring, like different colors. Like I remember this one kid who draw like Snow White with like purple skin. I was like, why? They can't even color the same color, but at least again, connecting the dots, right? Making common sense decisions. That's what it's all about.
Did you see this hour-long documentary about the California project? I think this high school student did it back in 2013.
I'm not familiar with that. Or it's not ringing a bell for me. Okay, may need to go ahead and link me to that or something so I can see that. I have actually not seen. Again, the only documentary that I'm aware of high-speed rail, made by a student was the one that we did back in the day. Yeah, that one. Which again, I was saying about doing sequels and stuff like that, and that never went anywhere, unfortunately. More my fault, but.
Okay. Shifting gears a bit.
Go ahead.
Going to PCR. Hope some good news comes out about that.
Are you hoping good news comes out about that, or are you saying that there's good news about it?
I hope so.
Yeah. Excuse me.
We just don't know right now.
Yeah, again, it's really right now we're just kind of playing the waiting game and seeing where things go. because things have sort of moved slowly since this whole Texas Supreme Court decision was getting started, and everything was kind of hinging on that. But even before then, when you had Carlos Aguilar and a whole bunch of the staff for Texas Central Railway just up and leave, a lot of that was due to the frustration of just the litigation system just taking so much time away from a project that wanted to be done by 2021. That was the original intent. But the issue is that you can't even get shovels in the ground until, you're 5 years down the line of arguing with... The EIS is one of it, and that's a big deal. But the other part is all the lawsuits that come with it, the NIMBYism that comes in through every single little place that you have to go through. I mean, Brightline wanted to get started in 2016, but again, it had been pushed over to 2018 because of the dissension within the Gold Coast. And this wasn't even, again, this wasn't a majority of the people in the Gold Coast. Actually, they have done studies and they've done polls that most of the people there, like 80-90% of them, wanted Brightline to get done. You just had a very vocal and very elite minority that had access to a lot of power and a lot of money that could go ahead and try to sway the voters, or at least, at the very least, get the county, like they got Indian River County, to go ahead and pay $5 million or something like that, millions of dollars for a study. Yeah, to stop it, and that all went nowhere. So it's stuff like that that's the issue. That there needs to be a balance between that, especially when a private company or any sort of organization wants to build a massive infrastructure project that is going to be beneficial.
Well, I'm probably gonna get down to Florida and ride Brightline.
Yeah, do it, man. Now that
now that all this COOF BS is coming to an end.
Yeah, the COOF is far ahead and behind. I still see some people wearing. It's like at that point, it's like you're like, dude, you're the only crazy one that's wearing a mask at this point. Like, just let it go.
But I wish them the best. Although I've been binge watching Shinkansen videos. Now they have a cute little jingle that plays before an announcement.
Oh yeah, the Japanese love their jingles and little the little musical notes here and there. They just love that stuff.
It's like musical train.
Yeah, and they have for each one, like each different station. There's a video I believe by NHK. Talking about the guy who he basically does all the synth music for every single Tokyo station.
Composer.
Yeah, he just basically composes all the music for it. That's an interesting one.
It's like Amtrak at Penn Station. Like, we don't even have that.
I mean, it's not yet. Everybody's gonna have the little thing. It's just we don't have what we used to have before. At least that we had at least a passion and a care for trains. Now it's just like, everything's kind of become like McDonald's, level of, how we take care of anything in this country, It's just pick and choose fast food this, and it's very oily, watered down. It's not even real. It seems fake. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah. And that's the problem. It's like, there's not like a real passion for our country in a sense, and that comes down to our railroads. We just have it. It's just there. It just exists.
And not even Brightline has jingles.
I mean, you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to have the jingles, but at least Brightline has. You can see that there's passion behind the project, and they do take pride in themselves, like the stations, how the stations smell, how the stations look, how the stations feel, and everything about that. That's what's missing in a lot of what Amtrak does. Amtrak just kind of just exists there and just does things at the bare minimum. If anything, they can just get away with it.
Service. So
that's part of it,
They probably don't care about how their stations work.
Yeah, and look, just because it's just because it's a government project doesn't mean that. It's mainly here in the United States that whenever it's a government project, they want to get away with the bare minimum while getting the maximum amount of funding for whatever they can. And that's the issue. You know, because you have like what happened in California. You have these contractors skipping out on delivering 80% of what they're supposed to deliver for California high-speed rail, and they're getting paid $666 million. You know, that's the creepy part. That they have to pick that number. That number, yeah.
Like, imagine what would happen if Right Line service was introduced between DC and New York and Philly and all those cities. It would put them to shame, right? I think so.
Yeah, but I mean, let's say if it were to happen, yeah, absolutely. The thing is like, you know, when you look at it at a realistic perspective, it's pretty hard to build anything in the Northeast Corridor. I mean, the Northeast Maglev has like sort of stalled because it's just you can't even get shovels on the ground until you get past the political and legal standpoint, and they're having issue with that. So I mean, just look at how hard it was for Brightline, but it can happen, you know. But that's what it is.
I hope so. One day we see a Right Line train in Penn Station or Union Station in D.C.
Absolutely. That could be a thing. Anything else you want to add, Renaud?
Last one.
All right.
To California for just a bit. I saw some renderings of California having Shinkansen trains. If that's could be really what they're planning to buy.
Yeah, I don't think so. I am still of the opinion, I say 95% it's going to be Siemens.
Or Alstom. They both have, like, it's...
I would say there's a better chance of, let's say, like the N700i rather than an Alstom. Then again, you never know. It could be possible. But anyway, that's just my opinion. That's all it is. Yeah.
PCR will do the N700.
Yeah, that's what they're at least what they're planning to do, or still are planning to do. All right, man. It's been great having you on here. I appreciate it.
You too.
All righty. Okay, we're gonna go ahead. The stage. I don't like that they called it "leave the stage." I mean, move to audience just felt better. Like leave the stage. I'm like, not kicking them out. You know. Okay, Focus 9912 has his hand up. We'll go ahead and invite him to speak. Again, guys, let's try to keep it to 5 minutes. We're going on time now. I'm finally glad. Welcome aboard, man. Yeah, I can hear you.
I think the regarding the one that the rendering discussion is by the WSP consultant. I think that's where you get the rendering from with the Shinkansen.
All right, I had a little bit of issue just trying to understand the beginning part of that. You want to go ahead and give that another try?
Sorry, I want to expand further on what Brandon just said about the rendering just now.
Oh, for the California High Speed Rail.
I think he got that from the WSP consultancy when I Google just now. And so for me, just now, and also he said just now regarding the fact that one of the options is from San Jose to San Fran.
Okay, yeah, that could be a possibility. Yeah, if you send me, if you have,
I don't think that's perhaps that isn't possible. The fact that because there was already a project between there, like the capital electrification, I think that's why they decided not to do that first, because they have one project already at there. That's why they need to put it there.
Right. Yeah, and the earlier renderings there was a lot of the TGV and the Shinkansens that were used for the early renderings for the ones that said like Fly California on there, which I don't know why it said like Fly California. It's like it kind of didn't make sense. It's like, well, this is a train. Maybe Ride California would have been a better wording choice, but those renderings have been around for like we're talking like 15 years now at this rate. You know, 15-year-old renderings of a Shinkansen for a project that's just been around for such a long time, and you know we're still waiting for it to to get moving. At least now these new renderings that they come out, like the ones you see on the screen with the Siemens Valeros, do look a lot more freshened up and more modern. So at least we have that. But yeah, that's one thing. Anything else you want to add?
Because if it is by Siemens, does that mean they will contract it at the current Florence assembly set, right? Because perhaps one of the reasons Siemens couldn't get the contract is because they're already busy building the chargers for Amtrak. But that's the one reason why there is a possibility, but I still think, I still agree with you the fact that Siemens will get the contract.
Yeah, and they've been pushing pretty hard. I mean, they even had the little mock-up on the steps of the Sacramento Capitol building of the Siemens Valero. So they're really pushing for them to win the contract. And honestly, it's not like they're going to be busy. All that means is just they can hire more people, they can expand their facility, and probably be able to get grants and everything like that now, especially with the way the federal government has been giving grants out through the DOT. It enables them in order to go ahead and really expand to build that and have now a foothold for actual high-speed rail. Probably they were going to do it for Brightline anyway, because Brightline already has a contract with Siemens. There's no reason for them to go ahead and go to another company when they already have a service contract with Siemens for maintaining their already existing equipment, and to stay with that same company in order to go ahead and get new equipment for the true high-speed rail between Las Vegas and Victorville. So that would make perfect sense, honestly.
Okay, so hopefully, I think that's it for now. I think I will see you at the lunch.
Yeah, not a problem. No, I appreciate you coming aboard.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Not a problem. Take care. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Actually, before we do that, let me get a bite of something over here. And I've been petting a cat, so I make sure like I take a little bit more precaution and take a napkin to go ahead and have my donut. Sorry, I know it's been years since I played Metal Gear Solid 5, but parasites still scare the absolute crap out of me. So, yeah. Sorry, I don't know if you have parasites or not, little kitty. And again, we all do at some, rate or whatever, but I don't want to, the less vectors that I can do with it, the better, right? And I'm being just commonsensical, right? I'm not, putting my donuts through hermetically sealed, N95 masks or something like that. It's a balance everything, right? Okay, so Grand Trunk Railway fan, we're going to invite him to speak. Okay. Grand Trunk Railway, welcome aboard.
Hello. Have you heard about the Northern Lights Express in Minnesota?
Not familiar with it.
It's trying to connect the Twin Cities to the Twin Ports at a top speed of 90 miles an hour.
Okay, yeah, that I have. I've heard of it before. I'm not too familiar with it though.
They had it shoveled right ahead, but until the Senate in Minnesota just shot it down for the funding, which I was mad.
Wait, when was this? Was this pretty recent or?
Pretty recent.
Okay. If you have a link or an article or something that we can look at, if you want to share it on the Discord general chat, just so we can get myself and the rest of the audience up to speed with it, that'd be great too.
I saw that on one of the blogs that the High Speed Rail Alliance just posted.
Okay. Yeah, if they did, then probably I can find that pretty quickly. Yeah, but let me just look that up right now. Here, I see Minnesota High Speed Rail Alliance. Why isn't that coming up? Well, the United States, no. It's not coming up for me real quickly. But yeah, anything you want to talk about it though? Or any information else you want to share while I'm looking for it?
I never heard any updates about the Cascades high-speed rail project.
Yeah, the Cascades one has just kind of stuck around. It hasn't really gone anywhere. And that's kind of the, again, there was a lot of big talk about it because a lot of the news articles were going ahead saying, oh, this is the one that Bill Gates was funding or something like that. And that one hasn't really just gone apart from just maybe a sort of study, but that's about it. Apart from that, nothing else has really popped up about it.
They're also trying to improve and expand the existing road between Eugene to Vancouver.
Yeah, which would be great. I mean, the whole Pacific Northwest that's all connected through there, so that would help in order to get that all connected up. Okay, I'm trying to find here about Minnesota. How recently was this?
Probably a few months ago.
Okay, that's probably why I'm not looking for it. I'm like back at May, and I'm trying to find it. All right, here we are. Perfect. Okay, Twin Cities Duluth project hit snag, but there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, perfect. Let me just go ahead and put that here. Take a look at that. Here we are. Okay, Republicans in the Minnesota Senate threw a wrench in the gears at the Northern Lights Express project this week in May 6, 2022, passing an amendment that prohibits the state from investing money in the roughly 150-mile line between the Target Field Stadium in Minneapolis and Union Depot in Duluth. Yeah, and that's how they usually do it, like, especially like a lot of the, conservative cucks in a lot of state will go ahead and like, oh, we're gonna, you can't, we don't want you to build it, so we'll ban either funding for it or we'll ban, the building of, certain types of infrastructure projects. Like here in the state of Indianapolis, like they literally banned building streetcars in Indianapolis. So they had to go ahead for the red line. They had to build a bus rapid transportation system, which is just absolutely it's just silly, honestly, because nobody wants to be on the hook for building a streetcar system, which would have been cheaper and it would have looked better. But hey, that's what it is. Let me see. 90 miles an hour. NLX eligible to receive federal funds through last year's infrastructure bill, but the state must first demonstrate its own commitment to the project. Okay. I'm trying to see over here. Advocates are pinning their hopes on the fact that the House's proposed budget includes $85 million for the NLX, which also has the support of the state's governor, Democrat Tim Walz. As the House and Senate budgets are reconciled over the next several weeks, funding for the NLX could make it into the final version. All right. So this looked like it was a couple months ago, so probably at this point we should see if there was any sort of updates to it. Let's see if maybe if we go on the website now if there's anything. Use. Okay, so is this the same Senate vote? A slim majority of... Okay, so this is the May 5th. Okay, no, this is the same news. Yeah, the Senate amendment, which passed 35-31, prohibits the Minnesota Department of Transportation and Metropolitan Council from spending any money on the project. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, at least, talk about the project. If they wanted to vote about the project, yeah, but don't just go around and say, oh, we don't want to spend money on the project. That's just sneaky. Yeah, but there doesn't seem to be anything else new about it. Doesn't seem like they've moved. Okay, wait. The House passed $85 million needed to unlock up to $340 million in federal funds. But like with so many other projects, time ran out on negotiations with the Senate. Okay, so the House passed it, but the Senate didn't, so nothing has passed. That's the issue. So that's where we're at right now when it comes to that, unfortunately. So it's just kind of there. It's,
Problem.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is that these projects, when they're just kind of there, that's how they die, from just, not going, because that's especially the way in this country how you can kill a lot of projects is just by not letting it move anywhere. you don't have to kill it outright. You can just keep it in legal limbo and just leave it there until it dies. So that's where that comes with that. So that answers that question. Anything else you want to look at, or I think that's about it?
There have been a lot of studies, but
Yeah.
many government agencies about like restoring discontinued long distance roads.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, you get to a point where you just have enough studies that you just need to start getting things done. But anyway, man, I appreciate you for coming on board. I really do.
No problem.
All right, thank you for coming on board. Okay. All right, we're making it on time. We got enough time for just 2 more if we can make it through the timing. So Star Force 25, welcome aboard, or you're invited to come on board. Put it that way. We'll make it there at 10. We'll finally get a live stream that's done on time.
All right. Hello.
Hey, Star Force, how's it going?
Pretty good. So I've been listening in about all the talk about California high-speed rail and some of the other projects, like with Brightline,
Right,
and with Texas Central. But I also heard a lot of noise coming from the High Speed Rail Alliance, which they're really trying to push forward. They recently had a board meeting, webinar about concerning the Chicago Access Program, and what that would do is help to actually revitalize Union Station to enable so many more connections through downtown Chicago.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. I haven't kept up with the High Speed Rail Alliance in a bit. But yeah, this is something that Rick Harness was really pushing on, of getting that improved access through Union Station.
Yeah, absolutely. And what he's been talking about is like some things he's been talking about, like compared with some of the other high-speed rail projects that are being proposed, are all primarily on a linear kind of path.
Right.
But the case with Chicago is that you got a bunch of satellite cities that in different states, like Milwaukee and St. Louis are the most famous examples of this.
Oh yeah.
And he's talking about how even helping revitalize Union Station can actually help to connect some of those services, and including O'Hare, more train access to O'Hare, which kind of brings me to the point with what Brightline is doing in Florida, and how it's helping to kind of start to jeopardize all these short haul flights, and that's especially that's very much one of the big problems that we have at O'Hare, because a good majority of the traffic isn't international flights or like long distance domestic flights. It's all these small short haul regional flights that can easily be accessed with a good high speed or even interconnected rail network.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing when it comes to that, is that, having that balance now, where instead of planes just running a whole bunch of short haul flights, you have that freed up in order to have long haul flights, and have that more optimized, while you're now have more people focusing on getting around the country through high speed rail between 300 and 700 miles. And I have up on the screen, Chicago. And that's the thing. I live in Indianapolis, so I'm very much aware of how easy it is to get from Chicago to other places. because it's such a major hub, not just for freight railroad, but it used to be a massive hub for passenger rail. It still is to a point. So having that available just opens up so many opportunities within the country. You know, it's not just the areas around there that also get benefit by it, but it's you get everybody else that's also benefiting from it. You know, you look like, 700, 800 miles away, Washington, D.C. benefits from it. The rest of the Midwest benefits from it. Even the South can also benefit from it because now you're opening up hubs and different connections between other areas, and that ripples out and spreads out to push other cities to look at improving their high-speed rail access as well. Or their passenger rail access. That's the whole thing. It's not just high speed. It's also just regular passenger rail too that also gets promoted by it.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I think since our last proper ARC stream, ARC Lounge, there was some big news that came out of Germany regarding their what Deutsche Bahn has done to help to actually revolutionize how we look at long distance travel and the short haul routes. So Deutsche Bahn has actually become the first non-airline to join the Star Alliance, which includes all these airlines like United and Swiss Air and Lufthansa.
Yeah.
And it's a huge game changer because now you're starting to see not only can you have convenient access from the airport to like a small town or a nearby city that's within distance of like regional rail or high speed rail, but you're also allowing like seamless connections where you can actually book with an airline or with Deutsche Bahn, and you can use that to get to like an international destination like overseas.
Right, and that's been quite common in Europe. Even Amtrak has something like that with United between with going on the Acela and transferring through there. All right, anything else you want to add onto there? I think we've just made it right on time.
Yeah, just one more thing. I think also I've been looking at the interurban rail systems well, and how prevalent they used to be before garbage motors came along and helped to kill that along with the other streetcar systems.
Right.
I keep thinking just makes you think about like what it could have been. And even I actually watched a recent video from Reese Martin, RM Transit, who just released a video about Tokyo's urban rail network and how some of it used to be interurban, and they just capitalized on it with all the through running.
Yeah, and then from there, some of the more popular interurbans turned into heavy rail and into part of the massive metropolitan rail network. So it's how it is. You just build upon it and just make it better. That's what it should be. All right. I appreciate you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Not a problem. Okay, so 9:58. I would end it here, but we have two more hands up, and you know what? I think it's more important that we go ahead and listen to our last two speakers. No one else can go ahead and join in. We have C and NW, and then we'll have Pensy Fan to end off the night. He'll be the caboose with this. So we'll go ahead and bring on C and W on board. Hey there, welcome aboard.
Alright, I have a few things I want to point on, and I'm going to start off with the Chicago.
Sure thing.
I heard earlier that they wanted to improve Union Station, but that all comes down to Amtrak. As if you have not heard, they tried to do a Peoria to Chicago for transit, but that went downhill when the Iowa Interstate refused to listen. They're like not even going to do anything.
Right. Yeah, and Amtrak has a lot of control over Union Station, so that makes things a little bit. I mean, it should make it easier, but instead it really doesn't, unfortunately.
And when the Amtrak want to do that Iowa City to Chicago, but if Iowa Interstate isn't going to do Peoria, they ain't going to do anything with Amtrak for passenger rail. They are not budging. So, I mean, some of that route may never get off the ground.
Yeah, it's sad, but then again, at least with the because when we last listened in on the Senate hearings on transportation, you had a lot of Chicago legislatures and representatives really on top with having Brightline on there. So that could be a solution, or at least a possibility in the long run. At least if it's not Brightline, at least the benefit of having Brightline going ahead and pushing for other companies and other organizations like Amtrak to sort of follow suit, that would be a good thing.
Yeah, and Brightline is doing very good things. And if they continue like Brightline West, we could see another Brightline Midwest.
Oh yeah, that could definitely be a possibility. I mean, they were looking at Chicago, St. Louis. That's definitely something that they were looking at, and that's very much an underserved area that can very much benefit from having a high-speed rail line. That's a lot of people have been talking about Chicago to St. Louis.
Yeah, and I mean Amtrak kind of does that with the Lincoln service, but how often are those trains?
That's the problem, yeah, and especially like let's say for example, like here in my own the neck of the woods. The Hoosier between Indianapolis and Chicago. The problem is like it's sort of like, the chicken and the egg. It's like, well, people would go on the train, but the problem is that you only have 4 leaving a week, and they're all at odd times in the middle of the night. So nobody's going to take that. And then if you did have it, the problem is that the service is slow. It takes 7 hours to get up to Chicago when you can just drive up there in 3. Now, it's still 3 hours of driving. I'd rather go ahead, and if there was a high-speed rail option available, more people would take that, but you don't even have that available. You don't even have Amtrak that just works. It wouldn't even take. It probably would take 3 or maybe 4 hours. At that point, you'll have people go ahead and go on there, because then you'll have that benefit, and then the demand will follow suit. Yeah.
And then another thing I want to get onto is that after Brightline expands to Tampa Bay, I think they could do a Jacksonville to Orlando.
Jacksonville was definitely on the map of what they're looking at on the expansion, maybe somewhere in phase 3, going up between Cocoa and Jacksonville with some stations in between, like places like Daytona or St. Augustine. That may be added on there.
They could really expand it even more from there is Atlanta. They could connect Atlanta to Florida. Now you've got a pretty large system.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Savannah, Jacksonville to Atlanta. Yeah, that's definitely something that they're looking at or have on mind. Atlanta to Charlotte, North Carolina is very much also on their radar, and for a lot of radar of both the governmental organizations as well as some third-party organizations looking to build high-speed rail or some sort of rail connection. So, yeah, those city pairs definitely will do well.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes not a lot of high-speed things can get off the ground at all.
Yeah,
we know that from the past, as they try to do something, but then they don't get support, and it just goes right back to the dust.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's why it's important that especially if it's in your neck of the woods to get out there. Yeah, you have to get out there physically and show support, because if we didn't have the amount of people coming out to, everybody that showed up for All Aboard Florida, Brightline, yeah, it would not have happened. It needs to have grassroots support.
Yeah, and Texas, I haven't heard much from Texas. Actually, I haven't heard much about it.
All we know right now is that it's kind of on ice right now. It was able to get support from the Supreme Court, that they did win that decision, that it does count as an interurban electric railway. That's what it is. So they can use eminent domain. However, the part about that is that the senior board and staff leave the project. So it's kind of on ice right now until it's now Texas's move now. So we're waiting for word from Texas. I mean, for Texas Central Railway, not from the state, but from the company itself. Now that's where we're at right now.
And then I saw something in Transport Fair. It was an article.
Yeah, last thing.
It was between the Las Vegas to Los Angeles became a corridor.
Yeah, and that's Brightline West. And the thing is that it's not. Brightline would like to connect directly to Los Angeles, but that's going to be cost prohibitive. So what they're doing is the first leg of the project is going to be Las Vegas to Victorville, with later on an expansion to the Palmdale station that California High Speed Rail is building.
That's a good start.
Yeah, and that would make sense. And you're still
better than how California High Speed Rail was doing, since they did a terrible place to start out of.
Yeah, but it's what it is now, so they're moving ahead. So at least from everything that we've talked about now about California, at least that puts things in perspective that they've had their bad times. They're now starting to get things in order, and that's where they're at. So that's basically the summary of, an hour or so of what we talked about in California.
Very respectful for your time in the Pensy fan. I think I've spoken enough.
No worries. I appreciate you coming on board.
Problem.
All
Have
right.
a good day.
You too. Take care.
I do.
All righty. And last but not least, Pensy Van. Got to bring it all home. All right, Pensy Fan, you're invited to come on board.
Testing 1 2. Can everyone hear my audio?
Loud and clear, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. There's a reason why, especially for those of you watching in the Discord server, there's a reason why I changed my name to Pensy Fan the Brightline Sting.
It rhymes.
It's because we need railroads like Brightline to operate all of these passenger services throughout the United States. Now, yes, I do know that after a few discussions on the Fisher server, Brightline isn't necessarily fully private. They do have to utilize government bonds, and there's also some support with the local towns and sometimes the state government. But the point is, most of Brightline is privately funded. And because of that, they're able to get much more accomplished when compared to an Amtrak proposal. As a matter of fact, there was a recent Amtrak procurement within the past few months where Amtrak basically realizes, Brightline is going to have us beat for competition between Orlando and Miami soon. Well, we know that Florida is a pretty good corridor, so what can we offer? I know, how about a daily round-trip train between Orlando and Miami to directly compete with Brightline? However, the thing with Amtrak is, even though their efforts are good and they are regulated, they're still limited to 1 or 2 trains a day. Heck, even all the way up in the Northeast, where they want to propose service in their Connexus map to Bethlehem and Allentown. Even the local commuter agency of the region, SEPTA said that they could provide 9 trains a day from Philadelphia to Reading, whereas Amtrak can only run 3. So it all comes down to funding at the end of the day.
Right.
So,
funding.
One of the main reasons why I support Brightline, in which right from the get-go you have 1 train per hour, high-quality stations, and it's another thing of importance too to make sure that these railroads aren't too big, to make sure they can't bite off more than they can chew, because that also explains many of the desolate regions of the U.S. in which areas that used to do 12 trains a day, Amtrak can only afford to run 1, if that.
Right. Well,
Which is also why. Sorry, you can continue.
No, go ahead. Finish off.
Which is also why I scrolled through Brightline's Twitter one day and found this map in general.
Okay,
now,
go ahead.
Brightline outlined a plan to expand even further than Brightline West, or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it looks like they're either showcasing good high-speed rail corridors for private service, or just expanding the Brightline name. I would prefer the former because, again, I don't want Brightline to become too large where they have to start service. But it shows that there is also a Midwest hub. That is a very underserved region in general, between areas such as Chicago to St. Louis, Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit, and Madison, Wisconsin. as well as the coveted Charlotte to Atlanta corridor. That is one region that they have been talking about for a while, even Portland and Vancouver. And in the map, towards the top right, is the coveted Washington, D.C. to Boston.
Yeah.
It hasn't been talked about as much, but Brightline may be considering taking over the NEC. Now, of course, someone else tried this. Ameristar Rail is a Brightline-like company in which they're privately funded. They tried to take over the Northeast Corridor, and Amtrak pretty much opened the door. But I just find it interesting that Brightline is outlining all these corridors, some of which are more or less served than others.
Right, and the reason why is like, hey, they've been talking about it for a while and showcasing. It's both as a way to showcase where the project can be also enacted and put into different places. But it's also showing us like, hey, these are places that Brightline has on the radar. And when it comes to when we talk about a privately operated company, it has to do with the operations, right? That the government doesn't have any hand in where the company wants to go. Now they do have a hand in, let's say, some funding and also getting approvals for certain aspects of the project. But the main difference between Brightline, a privately operated company, versus Amtrak, a government public operated company, is who runs it. And it's not just the amount of funding, because Amtrak certainly has access to a lot more funding. The issue is also the operational efficiency and their operational process, whereas Brightline is working on, we want to provide a convenience and hourly service between major cities within our local region. Amtrak's operating service is like, well, we want to just connect people and just have the bare minimum of trains, which is why they can only do one train between Miami and Orlando every day if they want to try to compete with Brightline. Nobody in their right mind is going to do that unless the tickets are very cheap for Amtrak. And if I were Brightline, I would just rub dirt even in their eyes further and just go ahead and put in a whole bunch of promotions just to run Amtrak out of the market, honestly. Because if you do it that way, then it really starts to push things forward, where it's not just Amtrak now trying to compete with Brightline, but now you'll have other companies that want to say, oh, okay, this guy, and that's the thing, it's not just one company doing it, right? It's now other companies that can probably go ahead, because even if Brightline could, they're probably not going to be able to run all of these corridors, right? They could, but definitely some other company or another is going to catch wind of it and say, hey, that company down in Florida is doing really well with their Miami, Orlando, Tampa network, and then they got their Las Vegas, Los Angeles one. Why don't we take over Madison, Chicago, or why don't we do Portland, Vancouver, or something like that? So that's the thing. It opens the doors for other companies to come in and say, we want to try to do the same thing too. I will say this, I am kind of surprised I don't see Texas anywhere or like anything on the map, which it can mean a lot of things. We can only speculate, but I just find it's kind of funny though. So I mean, it looks like it's, instead of just a plan, it looks very much more like what Brightline has on their radar themselves.
It would make sense that they would avoid Texas in that case, since they probably assume, Texas is already taken by Texas Central.
Yeah, if
about a year ago on their Facebook, their Twitter page.
Right. So if and that makes it even funnier, because if they're assuming, well, Texas already has Texas Central Railway, but they have Washington D.C. to Boston, that really goes to head and say, like, we're not looking at Texas because we think that's going to work, but we really want to take over the Northeast Corridor because we think that's where the big bucks are, and that service is not being provided as well as we think it should be under Amtrak, and we could do something better. That's what they're thinking.
Although I kind of see the case for the Northeast Corridor being operated by Amtrak. Frequencies there they're good. They're much better than other services.
Oh yeah, Amtrak definitely does a much better job in the Northeast Corridor than most other corridors. Absolutely, by far.
Whenever Amtrak gets funding for any annual budget, 40% of their funding goes to the Northeast Corridor alone.
Right. That's where most of their riders and the Northeast Corridor by itself actually does make a profit.
Right. Although that does leave the rest of the nation to split 60% evenly somehow.
Yeah.
companies like Brightline to step in.
And it's what it is. And like that's the thing. I still stand by my original idea of splitting up not just Amtrak, but splitting up the country in different corridors, similar to how JNR was split up between different JR systems and privatizing them. I do think that sort of model adapted to the United States would work out very well.
I also agree. Now, I've also heard a few people say that Brightline wouldn't really work since they're a private company and they're driven for profit. And yes, there are some risks with private operations when compared to government ones. And with that said, I wouldn't necessarily support the actions of the privately owned freight railroads. That's because they're utilizing PSR, or precision scheduled railroading, in which it's just running as few trains as possible just for the bottom line with shareholders. Brightline, on the other hand, is not following PSR.
Right.
There's no PSR on Brightline. That makes Brightline one of the few good private companies nowadays in which they actually care about providing better service for the people instead of just making profit.
Right. Yeah, and that's what makes the difference there. All right. Anything else you want to add on? I think we're pretty set here.
Well, I'm glad to have ended the night. Sorry for the last second joining. I just finished getting ready for college and all that stuff. But
not a problem.
Great to see you back. And I'd also like to say that it was your video on how to fix how to build high-speed rail in America back in 2019 that initially made me a Brightline stan in the first place.
I'm glad at least at the very least I did influence somebody, at least. So my work is going to is doing something, so that's the good thing. But anyway, man, take care, Pensy fan. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You too.
All right, take care. All right, folks, that ends up everything there for today. I think that was a good round of discussion that we had with everybody. And then look at that, we're ending it sort of there on a bright note, seeing what else that we can do for the country as a whole in terms of connecting it through high-speed rail, through passenger rail, and connecting our cities with streetcars, interurbans, just better passenger rail and for everybody, and freight too. So that at least, we get to a cohesive end over here. It's not just looking at California, but also looking at the rest of the country. All right, folks, we'll go ahead and end it here. We thank you all for joining on board of this live stream of the American Rail Club. We will see you all next time on board. Take care. Godspeed.